There's a lot of sometimes stigma around being a single woman and more so being a single mother, right? And that's why for me, I no longer want to identify myself as a single mother because I don't want to reinforce the stigma. And for women out there who you're like, you know what, we want to find a husband. Yes, I want to find a husband, and maybe I'll find one now in the future. Who knows? But it shouldn't define you. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! My name is Lilian Okado, and welcome to the Unafraid podcast. Let me just say this: I am super excited. Why? This is something I've been wanting to do for the past, I think maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I've thought about doing a podcast for the longest time, but like everybody else out there who says I'm gonna do this, and it never happens because you're afraid. I have been very afraid to get in front of a camera or even just go on an audio podcast and talk about what I want to talk about, because I've always thought I'll be judged or I won't look good on the camera. But we are here finally. So what is the Unafraid podcast? This is our first episode. And what is this podcast about? Let me just say that, like the name suggests, it says the Unafraid podcast. What that means is I am going to have honest conversations, or as honest as I can be on camera, honest conversations about life, love, healing, and growth. Now, why those four areas? Because I have had a full life. I have lived a full life, I believe, and gone through a lot of things in that full life, which I think everyone in the world has probably gone through. And I just feel like I need to begin to just talk about it, share about it, have honest conversations, invite people to join in. So I also welcome anyone who's watching. Feel free to, send me love. This is my first episode, so I'm nervous. And also feel free to send questions at the end of the podcast and, things that you want me to talk about from an honest perspective, and I'll be able to do that. Yeah, so in this first episode, I'll just talk very briefly about who I am. Who is Lilian Okado? Now, I have found that question to be a very hard question to answer because I am the kind of person who through my lifetime, I have done very many things. And for the longest time, I identified myself with the things that I have done. So I am a writer, I am a ghostwriter, I also do copywriting professionally. I run a company called Say Cheese Writers and all that, all the really nice sounding things, the founder of this and that. So I've been in business, and I'm a mom as well. Sometimes people ask, why do we say, what kind of a mom am I? Sometimes I say I'm a single mom, but I'm beginning to learn not to say that I'm a single mom. I don't know if any single mothers out there have a habit of doing that. You go to a seminar, or you go to a meeting, or you go to a friendly brunch, or, with friends, and you're meeting new people, and you're told, introduce yourself. And you immediately say, hi, my name is Lilian Okado, and I'm a single mom. I've done that for 10 years now. My daughter is turning 10 next year. And it just occurred to me, why do I say that? Why do I have to announce that I am a single mom? Something to think about, right? So for me, I am a mom, okay? Whether I'm single or not is really not important. But, and it's been a really amazing journey. So I'm going to be talking about that as well. Like, how has it been just raising my daughter the last 9 years? Why this is significant for me is because literally 10 years ago, in 2013, I wasn't a mom. So this episode is significant because I am now a mom, right? It's been 10 years. My daughter is turning 10 next year. And at that particular point in time, I had no idea how my life was going to turn out. And I remember I was fully pregnant, just about to give birth. And I was really excited about the future. And initially I wasn't so much, because I discovered I was going to have to parent alone. But then I got over that quite quickly, and I was really excited. Okay, the future. Now the interesting thing was, I was now at that particular point when I was about to give birth, I was staying at my mom's. One of my mother's place. I'd moved back home, and I had then I think a month late after that, or a couple of months later after that, I gave birth, right? And I remember when I was in the house, and I was just taking care of things with my daughter. She's a newborn, just trying to figure out this whole motherhood thing. And then we had a visitor. So someone comes and calls me. I was in the bedroom at my mom's apartment, and they come and tell me, "Hey, you have visitors." And I was like, "Oh my God, I don't need visitors right now. I've just given birth. It's not even months. But I was like, okay, visitors are good people, right? So I remember going to the living room, and there's a priest. Now, I have nothing against priests, guys. I grew up in a Catholic background, so it's awesome. However, I'm no longer Catholic. But my mom my family is very Catholic and everything. So she had brought over a priest, and now he was staying with my grandmother. So the plan was that because I've given birth, and my grandmother, who's pretty old right now, they're like, you know what, why don't we have a prayer time with the family? And I was like, and bless your child and everything. I'm like, okay, cool, no worries. So I go and I meet this priest, kind of like a young guy, not an old priest. And he starts asking me questions. He's like, hey, so what's your name? Hi, I hear you're a mom. And I'm like, yeah, I just gave birth, etc. My daughter is just a couple of weeks old. And he's like, okay, cool. Then he asks me a very interesting, so he's kind of interrogating me. Tells me, what do you do? Where are you working? And like, I'm not working because I had actually taken a break from my business because I was trying to just come to terms again with the whole motherhood journey. And so I wasn't working, right? And my mom's like, yeah, I'm not working. Then he's like, okay. So what's your daughter's name? So I'm like, my daughter is called Zolani. And he's like, where is that name from? So I'm like, it's from South Africa. I think it's a Zulu name. And he tells me, what does it mean? I'm like, okay, it means be at peace, or I'm at peace. And it's like, why did you give your daughter a South African name? Is the dad South African? I'm like, no, but I love South Africa and I love the culture. And then I told him, and regardless of that, despite the fact that I've given a South African name, her other two names are actually African. They're Kenyan names. So, and they're traditional names. So all her names are actually African traditional. So it's like, yeah. But now you've given her a name that is from a different culture. And how do you know about it's called what? The history of that name, whose name was that originally, what spirits is it carrying? And I remember listening to this man and thinking, oh my God, this is not the time to start criticizing my daughter's name. And I was getting a bit irritated. And then he's like, okay, I'm here. I just wanted to pray for your child and pray for you and your journey as a mother. And you know what? I also hear you have a challenge finding a husband. Guys, I was like, oh my God, what is this? So anyway, so I'm like, okay. It's like, yeah, so I'm also here to pray for you to get a husband. And I remember that specific day, I was extremely upset with my mother. Because I'm like, how do you bring a stranger? How do you even go and talk to a stranger about my personal dating history? Okay, I know I have been unlucky at love. It is fine. It is well. But that was not the way I wanted to find out what my parents think about my dating life. So I remember I was kind of upset and everything. And it kind of created a bit of conflict with my mom. But then when I look back right now, it's really funny. So let me fast forward to recently. So the other day, my small sister calls me up on phone and she's like, hey, how are you? I'm like, hey, small sis, how are you doing? And she's like, hey, mom, my same mother has been a bit unwell, and there's some medical checkups she needed to do and everything. So we got someone from the Aga Khan hospital who wanted to do some interviews. They're doing kind of a research study for women of my mom's age who have certain conditions, and they just want to find out how are they coping, right? So I was like, cool, that's really nice, because my mom has really been unwell and I've really been feeling like we need to have a lot of people visiting her and what. So I was excited. I was like, okay, so how did it go? So my sister is like, okay, the interviewer from the hospital goes and sits with my mom in the home and starts asking her questions. And apparently my mom talked and talked and talked and talked. Now let me tell you. So she says all these things about her family and how her family is amazing and she loves her children and I don't know where her kids are. And then she's like, oh yeah, and I have a daughter. She's a single parent and she's been unable to find a husband. Guys, this is 10 years later. My mom still is struggling to just let me be single. So, moral of the story, there's really no moral of this story. I just thought it was something funny to share because I realized just how much we take for granted, or not even take for granted, how much we value titles, especially when it comes to societal titles. Now, I confess, I am not young. I'm not in my 20s. I'm not in my 30s. I'm in my 40s. Not yet 45, but we're getting there. And so I do understand the worry that is in the family that, oh my God, this child has raised a 9-year-old and she's not able to find a husband, you know? And there's a lot of sometimes stigma around being a single woman and more so being a single mother, right? And that's why for me, I no longer want to identify myself as a single mother because I don't want to reinforce the stigma. And for women out there who you're like, you know what, we want to find a husband. Yes, I want to find a husband and maybe I'll find one now in the future, who knows? But it shouldn't define you. Like you're still whole. And there could be, you know, because people, especially at my age, somebody would ask, why are you single? I mean, I've also asked people who are single, men out there who are single in their 40s. And I'm like, why are you single? Do you have a problem? And then I realized, I used to ask that before I hit 40. Now I'm 40 and I'm the one being asked, do you have a problem? Anywho, so I was saying, what I wanted to say is, as a woman who's a single mother, who's been a single mother for a long time, it's very easy to actually feel like you're not good enough and worry so much about your future and what people think and all those things. And I realized that I actually enjoy my life at the moment. It's been a 10-year period, just navigating motherhood. But at the end of the day, I have learned so much and I've still grown as a person. And I just want to encourage you guys that it's not the end of the world. Just because you're single, it's not the end of the world. There's so much you can do. And even if your family, like my family, is like, get married, don't stress, right? And yeah, so that's the moral of the story. This is the first episode, guys. So I'm a bit nervous, but I hope that, you found it interesting. And I look forward to the next installment of the Unafraid podcast. Yeah, and before I forget, please subscribe, like, comment, and yeah, tell me what you think about this first episode. I know it's just the first one. Let me know what you think about it. Send me love. And if you have anything that you want me to talk about in this very honest space about life, love, healing and growth, which is me going to be talking basically initially about my own journey, and then hopefully maybe in the future I'll probably have a guest coming to engage on the same. But if you have any topics, please feel free to share so that I can have something to talk about on the next episodes coming up. Yeah, and thank you. Enjoy, and yes, like I said, send us some love. See you. Thank you.